Welcome back, my friends, to a video that about Randy Rhoads, about the death of Randy Rhoads, about what happened with Randy Rhoads in that, and here's the reason how we got here to this video. I was talking to a friend, and then we was talking about Randy Rhoads and the crash, and I said, I think I said a helicopter. He said, no, it was a plane. And then it just scraped the thing. No, it didn't do that. And then it hit a house and all this other stuff. And I said to myself, you know what? Why don't you just go to a fairly possibly reasonable source and read and get some more insight into this? And then somebody else said something about Rudy Sarzo thinks that it wasn't an accident or something like that. So I was like, wait a minute. Now, this video is about the passing of Randy Rhoads. We do it with honor, and we do it with respect, and we do it with damn love in our hearts around this channel. Do you understand me? I'm going to put an image over here that will remain with us of Randy Rhoads throughout this video, because this isn't defamed, to hurt, to do nothing, damn it, to him. But I wanted to get to the bottom of it. Where was it? What happened? And maybe they'll have some information from Rudy Sarzo and stuff on that, because that blew my mind. I was like, Rudy Sarzo thinks that it was an... Okay, let's get into it and find out. With all the love and gratitudes in our hearts towards Randy, the polka dot powerhouse that he was, right? He loved them polka dots and big bow ties and stuff. Rhoads, here we go. Rhoads played his last show on Thursday, March 18, 1982 at the Knoxville Civic Coliseum. Let's take a look at that. Oh yeah, they got a bit of hockey going on there. The next day, the band was traveling by bus to Rock Super Bowl. Oh, really? Super Bowl, what's that? 14? A festival in Orlando, Florida. Osbourne recalls his final conversation with Rhoads involved the guitarist admonishing him over his heavy drinking. So Randy was giving Ozzy the business about being a drunk, drinking too much. On the bus, Rhoads said to Osbourne, "You'll kill yourself, you know, one of these days." Wow. The plane crash. After driving much of the night, the bus stopped at Flying Baron Estate in Leesburg, Florida. Let's take a look at Leesburg. Well, that's the county building down there. City Hall. It's where they get things done there. To fix a malfunctioning air conditioning unit while Ozzy remained asleep. On the property owned by the Calhoun Brothers Tour Bus Company. There was an airstrip with a helicopter and a small planes. Without permission, tour bus driver and private pilot Andrew Aycock took a single-engine Beechcraft F-35 plane registered to Mike Parton. So their bus driver, who's been driving all night, decided to go up. Plane and Mike Parton. On the first flight, Aycock took keyboardist Don Airey. Yeah, let's take a look at Don's face. Oh, Don. And tour manager Jake Duncan with him as a passenger. Duncan later revealed that Aycock buzzed the bus in an attempt to wake drummer Tommy Aldridge. The group then landed the second flight and had Rhoads and makeup artist Rachel Youngblood aboard. Rhoads had tried unsuccessfully to coax bassist Rudy Sarzo to join him on the flight. Sarzo chose to get some extra sleep instead. That's a smart move, Rudy. During the second flight, more attempts were made to buzz the bus. Aycock succeeded in making 2 close passes, but botched the third attempt. At a 10 a.m. Jesus, I need to drink my soda. One's good enough, Aycock. One's good enough. You don't go and fucking buzz the bus 3 times. Everything happens in 3s. About 10 a.m., after approximately 5 minutes, one of the plane's wings clipped the top of the tour bus, breaking the wing into two parts and sending the plane spiraling. Oh, God, is this going to get grisly? The initial impact with the bus caused Rhoades and Youngblood's heads to crash through the plane's windshield. The plane then severed the top of a pine tree and crashed into the garage of a nearby mansion, bursting into flames. Rhoades, 25, was killed instantly, as were Aycock, 36. Dude, what are you doing? And Youngblood, 58. All three bodies were burned beyond recognition. Oh my God. Rhoades was identified by his dental records and personal jewelry. According to Sharon, it was real jewelry. You know that, because that stuff doesn't. According to Sharon Osbourne, who was asleep in the bus, or faking sleep, sorry for that. I did not. They were, let's see, where is it? Sharon, according to Sharon Osbourne, who was asleep in the bus and awoke by the crash. They were all in bits, I tell you. It was just body parts everywhere. I mean, that's terrible, Sharon. Keyboardist Don Airey was the only member of the band to witness the crash, as the rest were still asleep in the bus. In his account, he reported a struggle between Rhoades and Aycock in the cockpit. What? Randy Rhoads, 25, and Aycock, 36, are scuffling in the cockpit seconds before the crash. Oh, here's Airey. Is this Airey? I had my camera and was taking photos of the plane to give to Randy afterwards. I had a telephoto lens on and could tell that there was some sort of struggle going on aboard the plane. The wings were rapidly tipping from side to side. At one point, the plane almost became perpendicular. That means up like that, yeah? Perpendicular, no more than 6 feet off the ground. Wow. That's when I put down my camera and saw the plane right in front of me. I quickly crouched to avoid getting hit and looked over my shoulder and watched it clip the bus, crash into the tree, and explode on impact into the garage. As the band members on board the bus tried to figure out what had happened, bassist Sarzo recalls sidestepping broken glass in his bare feet and looking through the gaping hole in the bus to see a tour manager, Jake Duncan, outside, rocking back and forth on the ground, screaming, "They're gone! They're gone!" Drummer Tommy Aldridge took a fire extinguisher. Finally, a hero. We finally met our hero. Sharon's over there going, "Oh, Ozzy, they're all over there in bits." Meanwhile, Aldridge is up. He's got up and he's busy. Tommy Aldridge took a fire extinguisher from the bus and ran towards the crash site in a vain attempt to put out the fire. Well, he tried, didn't he? "Oh, don't do it, Tommy. Don't worry. You ain't going to put that out. It's jet fuel, dude. I'm telling you." It's like, come on now. In a vain attempt to put out the fire, tour manager Duncan, who had been on board the first flight, explained that although he had been concerned about the pilot's behavior, there was no sense of foreboding. It all seemed so innocent, quite frankly. When we arrived this morning, Andy offered Don and me to take us up. I must admit I got a bit scary when he started buzzing the bus, trying to wake Tommy up, but after a few attempts, he just landed, and well, that was it. Rhoades was afraid of flying. He was afraid of flying, but did it for rock. He'd get on that plane for rock. They had to fly him out to England and shit. Rhoades was afraid of flying, and Youngblood had a bad heart. Rhoades originally had no intention of getting in the plane. Duncan explained how the guitarist ended up on the doomed flight. Well, right after we landed, Andy came up to me and he told me that he was going to take Rachel up for the ride. And that being aware of her heart condition, he assured me that he was just going to take it easy. I'm starting to have a flash of what happened. Something happened with her in the plane, and that right or wrong for me to say that? Maybe she had something happen, and he's like, land the plane. Maybe that was... Well, right after Andy came up and told Rachel for the ride, that being aware of her heart condition, he assured me that he was just going to take it easy, circle the property a couple of times, and not pull any crazy stunts. So when Randy heard that, he decided to join them so he could take some aerial shots with his camera. And then the guy said, I was just joshing. I'm going to fucking kill us all. I wonder if he was the tour bus driver and the pilot that did this. I wonder if he was on like no-dos or something, something to keep him up after a 10-hour ride. Reaction. The remaining band and crew members were required to remain in Leesburg for an additional 2 days until preliminary investigations were completed. Rhoades' brother-in-law flew from California to Leesburg to identify the guitarist's remains. Ozzy Osbourne's official statement to crash investigators was, at approximately 9 a.m. on Friday, 1982, I was awoken from my sleep by a loud explosion. I immediately thought that we'd hit a vehicle on the road. I got on my bed screaming to my fiancée, my young beautiful fiancée Sharon. I said, Sharon! Get off the bus! Meanwhile, she was screaming to me, everyone else, to get off the bus. After getting out of the bus, I saw that the plane had crashed. I didn't know who was on the plane at the time. When we realized that, is it rude of me to be doing this voice with this particular story? I'm feeling like it's just not good. I found it a very difficult to assistance for anyone to help. In fact, it took almost half an hour before anyone arrived. This is his actual statement. Did they have a recorder? They just recorded him. He didn't write all that down. And if he did write it down, he wrote it beautifully. At approximately 9 a.m. on Friday. It's very, very cordial. We asked for further assistance, such as telephones, and didn't receive any further help. In the end, we finally found a telephone, and Sharon found her father. Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake, who had recorded Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman with Rhoades, and had been recently fired, of course, yes, Ozzy fired them, from the Osbourne Band, were together in Houston, Texas with Uriah Heep later that day when they got word of the accident. Kerslake recalled the moment he heard the news. He says, well, I was already sitting at the bar when Bob Daisley came into the bar. And I turned and looked at Bob and said, fuck, you have gone all white. What is wrong with you? And Bob said, Lee, there was a plane crash this morning and Randy was in it. And he's dead, mate. That was it. Oh, God. Oh, God. To hear that, I just turned and cried my eyes out. Bob and me were crying our eyes out over him because we loved him. He was such a lovely guy. And he was. Rhoades' longtime girlfriend, Jody Raskin, was in her car when she recalls hearing a block of songs from the Blizzard of Oz album on the radio before the DJ announced the accident and the news that Rhoades had been killed. She was too distraught to continue driving. When close friend and future Quiet Riot drummer Frankie the Frank Man Benali, let's take a look at this guy. Oh, yeah. Heard the news. He quickly got in touch with Rudy Sarzo to make sure he was all right. Of course you do. He reported sensing that Sarzo was having a hard time continuing without Rhoades. Black Sabbath was also touring the U.S. at the time and heard the news on the radio. According to bassist Gaze Butler, they panicked as they didn't know if Osbourne had been one of the casualties or not. They quickly contacted Osbourne's management company to find out what had happened. In the hours following the crash, band members and crew called loved ones to assure them that they were all safe, as news reports hadn't yet named the victims. Sarzo found a church near the hotel they had been taken to and went inside to pray. The church was empty aside for one man at the front, crying uncontrollably near the altar. Sarzo was moved by the display of overwhelming grief. Eventually, the man cried out, "Why? Why?" And Sarzo realized it was Ozzy Osbourne. That is absolutely beautiful. I'm a real son of a bitch for doing an Ozzy voice. I am a son of a bitch. I don't know how much longer we got here on this. This is tearing me up in all kinds of sort of ways. In the hours following the crash, we already got that. He realized it was Ozzy Osbourne on hands and knees to the altar. We're getting ready to do an album called Speak of the Devil, but Eddie Van Halen, let's take a peek at him. There he is ripping. He's a good age there. Very muscular fellow. When fellow guitarist Eddie Van Halen learned about the crash, he sensed immediately that the pilot had to have been fucked up when it happened, saying in an early 1982 radio interview, "You don't fly that low and smash into a crew bus and then it hits a house. The pilot was jerking off." That's just plain stupidity. I feel so sorry for Rhoades. Aycock's estranged wife, Wanda, had spent the last night on the bus. Band members reported that Aycock was attempting to reconcile with her. According to witnesses, Wanda emerged from inside the bus shortly after the second flight took off and was standing in the doorway watching the plane as Aycock made his final approach. Don Airey and Sarzo both surmised that Aycock, having suddenly seen his estranged ex-wife appear, he was going to show her a couple tricks. Maybe have intentionally made the impulsive decision to kill her. Oh, wait a minute. Like fly it down and hit her? The impulsive decision to kill her by crashing the plane into the bus. Sarzo also mentioned Aycock's troubled emotional state that day, worsened by the effect of the cocaine and sleep deprivation. He did about 75 lines of cocaine. And then he sees his ex-wife. He's hopped up, 10 hours on the road, cocaine aplenty. And then there's his ex-wife who's says, "You haven't given me half that check of yours yet for this Ozzy Osbourne tour." You know what I mean? Cocaine sleep deprivation. Given the struggle in the cockpit, Sarzo theorized that Rhoades' actions in the last seconds of his life prevented a direct hit with the bus, which potentially could have killed the pilot's ex-wife and everyone on board. All right, we're almost to the end of this here, guys. I thank you for taking me on. It's been a real rocket ride, a real whodunit kind of thing. Ozzy Osbourne later admitted that Aycock had been seen doing cocaine all night prior to the crash. Back in the 80s, they just didn't give a shit, did they? He was doing cocaine all night long, and I can testify to that because he was doing it with me. It was confirmed after his autopsy that Aycock had tested positive for cocaine. Rhoades' toxicology test revealed only nicotine, because he was a sweet boy that didn't do things. He wanted to learn how to play his guitar. He wanted to be a master guitarsman. The NTSB investigation determined that Aycock's aviation medical certificate had expired, and it was reported that Aycock had been the pilot in another fatal crash. Oh, really? Am I reading that right? It was reported that Aycock had been the pilot in another fatal crash in the United Arab Emirates. Let's see how beautiful that is. Oh, it's just a flag. Only 6 years earlier, Sharon had been aware of the prior crash. You gotta be kidding me. Sharon. We will read that again. 6 years after in the United Arab Emirates, it's an all right flag, not anything to write home about. Sharon had been aware of the prior crash, but hadn't informed anyone else on the tour. In the moments after the crash, she reportedly admonished tour manager Duncan for allowing their people into a plane with a pilot who had been using drugs all night long, telling him, "Don't you know that that man had already killed one of the Calhoun kids in a helicopter crash?" No, we didn't, Sharon, because you didn't tell us that part. Rhoades' funeral was held at the First Lutheran Church in Burbank, California. Serving as pallbearer at the funerals were the band, Ozzy Osbourne, Tommy Aldridge, Rudy Sarso, and Rhoades' former Quiet Riot bandmate Kevin Dubrow. On his coffin were flowers and 2 photos of the guitarists, one showing Rhoades and Osbourne on the stage in San Francisco. Rhoades was buried at Mountain View Cemetery in San Bernardino, California. On his tomb, and this is the great way to end this, with hugs and kisses, love and respect. On his tomb is the inscription, "An inspiration for all young people."